My name is Mary-Elizabeth Percival. I am a hematologist-oncologist specializing in the care of patients with acute myeloid leukemia and other high-grade myeloid neoplasms like myelodysplastic syndrome. Currently, I am based in Seattle. I am an associate professor at the University of Washington, and I'm also an associate professor at our Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center, which is the cancer care program for the University of Washington. I am a clinical researcher, so I perform research in two basic areas. One is clinical research with clinical trials. So those are studies that enroll patients with acute myeloid leukemia and related diseases. Oftentimes they are interventional trials with a new drug or a new combination of drugs that are being used to try to improve outcomes for patients. Usually, I participate in relatively early phase studies, phase 1 and phase 2 trials, with the goal of really trying to discover and impact the care of patients with new options that will improve outcomes, because even for some of our uh, best treated diseases, for example, with AML, we often have a chance of curing patients, but it's still not as high a percentage of patients who are cured as we would like it to be. Oftentimes, our regimens are difficult to tolerate. So if there's a way to improve those for patients, that is definitely an important goal. The other part of my research is retrospective work. So we use our internal acute myeloid leukemia database, which has information on thousands of patients over the past nearly 20 years that have been treated at our institution. Sometimes I use data sets through cooperative groups like the Southwestern Oncology Group or the transplant registry known as the CIBMTR to try to ask and answer questions that we're not able to do with clinical trials alone. I would say funding for research is under threat. My research, thankfully, has been able to continue forward even in this tumultuous time over the past year or so since the new administration began, which I'm grateful for. Part of that is because some of the clinical trials that I run have funding from outside the government and outside the institution sources, such as pharmaceutical companies. So when we run an industry-sponsored trial or sometimes an investigator-initiated trial, we're able to use some funding, whether that comes in the form of free drug to be able to conduct a trial, or support for the whole research staff, including the research coordinators and regulatory specialists and all the other things that are necessary to make a clinical trial move forward. I also have sometimes had to rely on philanthropic support to help fund studies, which is a great resource to be able to have, but not one that is necessarily sustainable or viable for many others. My colleagues at the University of Washington and Fred Hutch have many NIH-funded projects, and right now I have to say I and others are very worried because we do not yet have data from the administration for the president's FY 2027 budget request, so it's anticipated to be released soon. And the other unfortunate part that we're anticipating is that we think that it will call for significant cuts to NIH funding. So we have been very lucky in the research community to have a lot of backers in Congress who understand the longstanding importance of the National Institutes of Health and all of the research breakthroughs for patients and clinical care and clinical trials and lab-based research science that have come from there. So I would hope that Congress will reject the cuts that we anticipate are going to be proposed, can help protect NIH funding to continue to drive medical breakthroughs and save lives.